but we don't usually meet in August, but we did meet in July, and Robert reached out and said he would really appreciate it if we could allow him to come talk to us a bit about some things that are going on in the Hudson River Park. And some of it was timely, or some of the things he wanted to get in front of us were timely. So I said, sure, we would do what we could to pull people together. And so here we are. I don't have any other agenda topic but to hear from Robert. So let me just go around. As is protocol, I'm Rich Cacapolo. I am the chair.
I'm Susanna Aaron. I'm the vice chair.
Frederica Siegel, committee member.
I'm Sharon Willems, Community Board 2, public member. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay, Parks Committee, sorry about that.
Matt, you there?
Matt Metzger, board member. SIC board member.
There we go. And Coral's on. I see Coral. I think she's still muted. But I'll ask her to unmute, but she's on.
Coral, committee
Yeah.
member.
Thanks, Coral. Thank you. Yeah, a few. Elizabeth is out. Daniel is out. Was away. It's tough in August, but I'm sorry, Robert, that we didn't get a larger contingent, larger group here. But I don't think we have any resolutions expected. So let's just make sure we get up. There's another call-in user there. Can call-in user identify themselves?
I think that's Katie.
Okay. I don't know. We'll see who else joins, but why don't we get started, Robert?
Okay. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
You guys are muted again. There's Carter. Carter's there. You guys are muted. We lost you at thanks so much for doing it.
Try again.
You're back.
Can you
Let's give him a second to probably reconnect. Mark was panicking there.
Try now.
Bad.
Try now. All right. Exactly how you do it.
it works briefly?
Matt, you feeling okay?
Everything okay? How we doing? Still no sound?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, we're good. You're on twice, which we're going to count you twice, if you don't mind. To attend. All right, and I see Carter's there. Thanks for attending, Carter. And who else in the room? I'm sorry.
Chris is here.
Hi, Chris. Oh, thanks so much for coming, Chris. I know you offered to make it. I appreciate it.
Yep.
And Katie's on.
Yep, I see that. Thanks, Katie. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
Can you hear? But I don't.
We can hear you, Katie.
Can you see my picture?
No,
No, but we know you're there.
we
Okay.
your name's there, but we see the phone icon. So, okay, well, back Robert. Do you want to start again? We heard you up to. Appreciate it.
Okay. So I'm Robert Adbury. I'm the Executive Vice President of Park Relationships and Programs at Hudson River Park. I just want to give you guys a few quick updates. Hopefully, I'm glad everyone didn't, 2 million folks didn't troop down, although I'd love to see you in person for these. The first one up is we want to talk about the Pier 40 Marine Operator. Folks will know that as Hornblower. I will say it's Hornblower and Cornucopia. They are the cruise lines that operate on the north and west side of Pier 40. It is one of the long-time water-dependent uses at Pier 40. It's one of the revenue-generating uses at Pier 40. We certainly talked a lot in the past about the need to generate revenue from Pier 40. It generates about $1.2 million a year for the trust. There have been, and I'm going to kind of go in a series of orders as we talk about here. There have been a couple of incidents recently with some noise issues that I'm sure Katie will want to chime in on when we get to. And then also the contract for the use at Pier 40 for Hornblower is coming up at the end of the year. So we're going to be issuing a new RFP, and we wanted just to come touch base with you guys before we did it. It's a returning use, but we want to give folks a chance. We have some things that we're looking to address with it. Want to give chance folks to share anything else that they think we should know before we go through that process. So first up, I want to just make sure folks understand what is at Pier 40 right now. So Hornblower is the prime tenant at Pier 40, and they do the cruises as well. A couple of years ago,
What was that? We left you at a couple of years ago.
yeah, well, he did it. He does it up there now.
No.
Now is good, I think. Count to 3, count to 10. I'm hearing nothing.
3, 4.
It keeps kind of making a buzzy sound.
It's on Thursdays, July 6th through August 20th. Thursdays.
One thing that we could do is
Now I've heard that I heard fine. One thing that we could do.
Okay.
Okay.
The other version of this, Mark, if you mute everything there, I can do it from my phone and it will just be the noise.
Looks like the line or the owl camera is cut off.
You did,
Yeah.
because I was trying to connect it to the other thing to use that instead.
But can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we can. It's not amazing, but it's a little echoey, but it's good. If you get close to the mic, it will be better.
Is this
The mic is
the microphone? Does that work?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So we're not going to touch anything else. Sorry about these tech issues.
No.
Yeah, make the falling baby sign if we are we go silent again. So a couple of years ago, as part of an antitrust investigation of the AG into Hornblower. Hornblower is a national company they were doing an acquisition of some sort. They're national, East Coast, West Coast. They're all over. So as part of a review of an acquisition for antitrust issues, the New York Attorney General required that a hornblower take on a subtenant or essentially a subtenant for us for their Pier 40 uses. They assigned essentially Cornucopia, a company based in New Jersey, to be that company. We, as a trust, did not have a say in the company or the review or the conditions, nor did Hornblower. The requirement is that Hornblower is supposed to pass along our requirements that we negotiated directly with Hornblower and are the things that we implemented there upon Cornucopia. And I tell you all of this in part with Katie, with some of the noise issues we've been having recently. Part of our pieces of this, after many, many years of Hornblower being at Pier 40 with few issues or initiated issues at best, has had some more recently, and our enforcement has been complicated by this arrangement where Cornucopia reports to Hornblower, who is then our tenant. And so we have to work through Hornblower onto a third party company that is mandated to be there by the Attorney General, or is given the space, essentially assigned the space by the Attorney General, so that it's not as though Hornblower or the trust can simply remove them as a tenant. As of right now, they have both the north and the west side. Katie has raised some issues with noise recently. Our staff we are trying to do our best to work with them. We're meeting with Hornblower and Cornucopia on the noise issues. We certainly understand them. We want to be a good neighbor. We want them to be a good neighbor. We don't want necessarily our staff, for selfish reasons. I say this, like, it's not great to get 10:30, 1 a.m. or on a Saturday or 1 a.m. emails that we are then trying to respond to and that we are scrambling on our end to respond to very selfishly. But also as for good neighbors, for Katie and all of you, we need something that works for everyone. Hornblower has been there successfully for very many years. So we've had some issues recently. Noreen says, she wanted me to make sure you all know that she too has been involved in trying to respond to this in the middle of the night. There's sort of been 2 incidents where they have been playing loud music too close to the shoreline. There is also recently, and this triggered in part a noise incident, there was some high winds and one of Hornblower's boats bumped one of Cornucopia's boats. It broke some windows. Coast Guard has done an investigation, cleared all the boats for sailing, and cleared the captains for safety. But it was as part of that, they were stuck just off the pier, waiting to move now that there'd been an incident before they could pull all the way in. And they played music to keep to keep the guests entertained while they were stuck for an hour. But that meant they did it right off of Pier 40, which they are otherwise not supposed to do. Not an excuse by any means, but it's just a piece of what happened. So with all of that, we have this arranged marriage between the two companies. There have been the incidents, and then kind of following out of separate from that, but along the same timeline now, the contract is coming up. So we will be redoing an RFP for it. We were obviously not able to negotiate the things that we negotiate generally, the operational things, noise, traffic that we do with tenants with Cornucopia. But we will right now be doing a new RFP for essentially a marine operator for both the north and west side of Pier 40. It's an important revenue source for the trust. It's a marine use. It's a way to get folks out onto the water that are not able to, say, get in a kayak with your Graham or some of the other ways that folks get on the water and out in the harbor. It is a piece of our water access to help get folks on boats. So we're going to be doing that this year. We have things that we are looking to address as the trust. I will say noise and some of the operational issues is certainly high on our list, as are some of the traffic issues at Pier 40. I'm sure some of you know, some of you may not know, Pier 40, the front turnaround is a complicated endeavor between the cruise ships and the parking garage and the field users. and the other folks that are coming through there to get to the park, and deliveries and all the other things, and the school buses that show up from traveling meets and all of that. So it is a complicated piece, and we're looking at some of the traffic pieces. We also want to make sure that we're bringing in a good neighbor who will work both with you and us on some of these other issues that we know exist. Some of this is for a contracting / operational conversation, which will happen after a respondent is selected. Some of it, we certainly will try to incorporate the pieces into the RFP so we can have the information to make an informed selection. Otherwise, we are looking at a sort of a returning use in the park. But with that, I will open it up for questions, or if folks have other things they want to share about the operator that you think we should know as we go into the RFP process.
So Hornblower.
Let
has
me open it
been-
up to anybody. Yeah, go ahead, Frederica.
Thanks. Hornblower has been a longtime tenant and a good neighbor. And can you really imagine punishing them for the sins of cornucopia?
So the RFP process comes up regularly, and it's part of our state procurement. We have an obligation to go through an RFP process and a public competition whenever we have a space like this. So
Isn't it a little bit pro forma? And if you accept Hornblower, aren't you also accepting cornucopia without any kind of control possibility?
we would be able to, I think, if Hornblower was to both respond and ultimately be selected, we would be able to negotiate with subtenant strike as part of it. It would be part of a package that we were not able to do through the Attorney General process. But that assumes both that they respond and also are come out as the selected respondent, which I can't say. And I will want to be very clear, I cannot say that anyone has a preference or foreknowledge in the RFP process, that it has to be a free and open process.
Katie has a question. She has her hand up. Please go, Katie.
I want to make a couple comments. The first comment is there were 3 noise problems in July. So that's too much. And to Frederica's statement, we've had occasional issues with Hornblower. It was a very terrible day party that they did a few years ago, which resulted in ambulances arriving at the pier. It was in the Post. It was such a disaster. So they're pretty good neighbors, but every once in a while there's been a problem. But of course, both either one, cornucopia or Hornblower, have to come through the SLA as well. And I'm glad Donna and Carter are here. And we've been doing research into their liquor licenses, and have been unable to. And I know Robert is working on it on his end as well. But we haven't been able to find out that cornucopia has a current liquor license. And the Spirit of New Jersey, which is the boat that was involved in the latest incident, I don't think it ever had a liquor license in New York. It's not a name that we've come across, and both Hornblower and Cornucopia have come before the liquor committee, the SLA committee, and in the stipulations there are very clear restrictions on noise, and they've been broken 3 times this month. So there's another layer, outside of the HRPT that where we get to weigh in and make sure that everyone's on the up and up. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you, Rich, for recognizing me.
I'm sure. Thanks for contributing and thanks for attending. Matt, you've got your hand up.
So I won't claim that I'm the most sympathetic to drinking on the water, but I'm certainly on the top 10 list. I will note, though, that it's interesting to me that if Hornblower had to divest the location as part of an antitrust matter, that they would still be in the middle dealing with operations. And so I'm wondering why they didn't truly divest and you guys didn't sign a new, kind of why they didn't. It sounds like they signed a sublease with Hornblower as opposed to an assignment of the lease. And I was just wondering why you guys didn't do an assignment of the lease as opposed to a sublease.
So I would have to defer to our legal team on some of the specifics. I think in part we would have to go through another public procurement process. I think that there's a lot of public procurement law, and we're not able to necessarily always transfer things through process when it's a non-competitive process. It is a piece that we try to uphold. It is part of the public, to try to maintain the public interest is to go through the public procurement process. But I would speak to my legal team about the specifics. I wasn't necessarily here for it, and I don't know exactly what conversations were happening within the Attorney General's office between them and among these companies. We don't know how Cornucopia was told. They said we were told that this is a company that would be taking over as a subtenant as part of this. We were not given options. There was not a vetting process. There was not, as we are aware, a competition for it. We don't know exactly the specifics of how the Attorney General landed on this.
I do not blame you at all. When is the RFP process starting? Sorry.
So we are working on putting together the RFP now. It will probably run through the fall.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And how long did you say they have been the operator there?
I believe they took over just as COVID was starting in 2020. And then I think there was a lull. They were operating last year where we didn't really have almost any complaints. And then again this year, and we are in high season now. So there really is a peak in the valley of when in the year we would hear anything.
Rich, can I jump in a second too?
Yeah, please, go for it.
There's a long history here, and people may not be aware, but Hudson River Park has a lot of activities in the park, and it has a particular, a lot of music, a lot of other things. And so the ships, it's very important that they operate in a particular way when they're close to shore. And that's been the main problem here all along. A number of years ago, a couple of years before COVID, you'd have the ships blasting music, have music on Pier 45. The ships are coming in and out. It's very disruptive to the park activities. And, so that's where this started, that the board started being very interested in how the ships were operating. And before that, we had the Queen of Hearts, I think, was there. There were some issues there. And Hornblower really came in as a great operator, I think, matching with the park and what people wanted. It was very well run from the top, managed very well. And so everything is good when that's happening, but the problems still exist for the rest of New York when these ships are blasting music off the coast, so to speak. That's a different problem. But as they come in and out, that's been our main objective. And the coming in and out is still a problem in other areas where some of these operators are. But for us, Hornblower was a great, addressed our local issues on that. And so if you go to different areas, and when Cornucopia came to us, they're based in Jersey City, I believe, just across the water. I don't think they're properly licensed. There is no record of any licenses, and anybody who picks up and drops off or is based in New York, even if it's a vessel, needs to be licensed in that state where they're doing the pickup. So there's a lot of little issues here. I don't know if the Cornucopia thought they would keep going. So, they had mentioned to us that money was an issue when they came during COVID, and they were applying for the licenses. So there's a lot of underlying issues here. And I think Katie is the one who really has noticed the most recent ones, and it's prime time. This is when you make your money. And when the ships don't sail, that's when there are problems. That's when all those people were taken off in an ambulance, I believe, or maybe it just didn't leave the dock. But I remember that story. But then that's a provision that might be helpful, is if there's inclement weather, then what? You have somebody who's booked some big events. But I'll leave it at that. But so Hornblower has been a great operator, but I think they also operate everything else in the harbor the water ferries, all that stuff.
We actually have other tenants in the park who have this Circle Line is in the park. There are a limited number of lines that operate from Chelsea Piers. There's no, I mean, Hornblower, in our opinion, does not have a monopoly even on the Hudson River Park market. On the SLA things, and I do want to say this, we actually sent a formal demand to Hornblower for Cornucopia today for on the SLA pieces to try to get the information. Our leases do require everyone to hold and maintain all proper permits, licenses, authorities. We are not a universal enforcer. We apply the building code, but we are not the building code enforcer. There's a health code. We don't enforce a health code. Like there's a lot of things. There's Coast Guard requirements, and we don't. While we can require them to follow them, we actually aren't able to. We are not an enforcement agency on them. But we have asked in a formal way for it, and if not, we will have been clear that we may have to report them based on some of the Katie's things to the SLA for it. But in the meanwhile, I know there are boats in particular as a premise, as I was trying to learn this myself, because they can be docked in various places. Like there may be a license that we don't know about because it's not normally docked here, or whatever the rules are for where they have to have it location. So we felt the need to ask the question first.
Susanna, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my understanding of this situation, therefore, is that Hornblower is a long-standing tenant who has been pretty fine, and to them, you're going to reissue an RFP, and you wouldn't really have a problem with them signing up again. They now have this subtenant who is problematic, and I think it's important for Hornblower to know that their subtenant is jeopardizing their contract with the trust. I presume that Hornblower relies very heavily on needing a lease with the trust in order for them to run their business, and so it really should fall upon them to get their subtenant in line. That's what I was going to say.
Do you have a response to that, Robert, or is that?
I mean, for any number of reasons we've touched on, we think it's important that our folks are good neighbors in the park. We want them to be good neighbors. I think they generally want to be good neighbors, and so it is something that I know they are working on. We are working on, and it's we'd like to see. And then it is the RFP is coming up, and it's certainly part of that conversation.
Right. They need to know that the RFP is coming up and they're going to bid, but they have some knocks against them now because of this subtenant. It's not our business why they have a subtenant or this, but it is our business that this subtenant be a tenant that we are comfortable with, that you are comfortable with.
Is there any, other than just telling us about this and giving you the opportunity to hear from the community at this forum, is there anything else you need from us?
No, I mean, we wanted to raise it before we go into this. As we are putting together an RFP, we thought it would be helpful to hear from you guys on what, if any, other things, certainly implement whether one is one I can take back. But we wanted to both address some of the things that Katie has been raising, but also make sure you guys were aware and had an opportunity to share.
Okay, and before we leave, Matt has another comment.
Just a question, given that Hornblower was recently ordered to divest the location as part of the antitrust matter, I find it unlikely that they will be responding to the RFP. Would you agree? And if so, does that mean that y'all will be looking elsewhere, I guess?
So it is an open RFP. I can't say what Hornblower will or will not do. I can't speak for Hornblower or their pieces, and I don't know the legal intricacies enough to know. I don't believe that they were ordered to divest entirely because they are still here. And so I don't know that I can't, all I can say is I don't know. That we will find out in response to the RFP. That is the nature of RFPs, and we can't give anyone preference or a successful advantage as part of the process.
Sorry, so then a clarifying question. Will the is the RFP for a specific square footage of which they were ordered to divest a specific amount? I'm just a little confused.
So the RFP, and I think what we're looking at is for the north and west sides of Pier 40. for it. And I don't know what I can't speak to the antitrust pieces with either square footage or whatever the other pieces were, the AG's piece. I have not heard the word divest invoked as part of these conversations. So I'm not sure that that is the exact way as to whether or not we know that they were ordered to take on Cornucopia as a subtenant from the AG and where they were appointed there.
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. I guess my point is there are now multiple people operating out of a place where there used to only be one.
Yeah, there is a certain amount of space along the edge of the pier that you are right that there is some pieces of it. How exactly it was broken out, it's about the number of boats that fit there. Historically, Hornblower has operated, I believe, about 4 boats off the north side over the years for it. So it depends on the size of the boats. If you look right now, say like I think it's the Majesty is quite large and takes up a lot more of a side than some of the other ones, say the Spirit of New Jersey, which is much shorter.
Can you, I'm sorry if I missed it, Robert, can you tell me how much revenue you pointed out how important it is that it's one of the few places in the park that is allowed to generate?
It's a key piece of the revenue that we were able to generate from Pier 40, and it generates about $1.2 million a year for the trust. And we use that money for our care and maintenance. It helps pay for our gardeners. It helps pay for our PEP and security. It helps pay for our public programs, environmental education pieces. That is key operating revenue for us that we use to like pay everyone's salaries, including my own.
Oh, including your own, well, then. And just if when you do the RFP, just walk us through the process. It'll be an open RFP. You'll get whoever responds, and then can you just walk us through the process and who else needs to be involved?
So I mean, the folks respond, the trust vets and works with folks that they have an opportunity to ask questions. We clarify them in the RFP. They have a closed response. It is pretty tightly held as part of a secret, sort of this secret piece of it, is because there's a lot of confidential business information. We'll make a selection and then we enter into contracting. And at some point along there, I'm sure we'll happy to be able to engage you guys again, particularly if there are going to be any major changes in uses or anything like that as part of it. We would certainly come back and have some more conversations with you guys to the extent that we can within the state procurement process.
Okay. And any other people that need to be, I mean, there was another committee at CB2, but anybody else?
Rich, I wanted to throw in a couple of things and thinking about it. Hornblower is a great operator because they have large ships. Therefore, they can pay the money. And that's a big issue here because it's linear length of docking ships is what they're leasing. And smaller boats can't take out as many people. And this, I think, is sort of a part of what comes in. And that was a big change with Hornblower when they came. And in coming to us, these contracts are such that it even seemed they went out and procured ships to fit this use because there were almost only so many ships designed for this use in operation. And that was a part of what they were excited about when they came to us and with their licenses. So, and a part of that, one of the conversations was the number of people coming in and out of the park, crossing through the circle. And that's a balancing act for all of us is when the ships come and go. And so there's a lot of balancing, but we've been tried to be very accommodating. And I'm be curious to see if there are many other people who can answer the RFP in such a way. If Hornblower is not participating, we're ready with large ships, with the model of operation. It's different than the dinner cruises, but it's a little nicer, whatever it is, but it's important for the revenue for the park. It's not as easy, I think, as people think it is to just put out an RFP and have somebody who's going to generate the proper revenue. So there's a lot of different moving parts at stake, but the biggest thing for us is that the park retains its nature, how it's operated normally, the number of vehicles coming in, out and crossing the park, and whatever other accompanying noise. Those are the big main issues. And those aren't hard to address. So it's a surprise that Cornucopia is jeopardizing that by operating in this manner.
Okay. Katie, I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip your question, Rich. You asked Robert, is there anything more that he needs from us? Or anything we can do for him? And I'm gonna ask Robert, what, is there something, that we can provide for you that's helpful at this point?
I mean, even just this conversation, I think has been helpful. I think, this is a longstanding use, so I don't think anyone at the trust, from Noreen on down will be surprised to hear any of these issues. Like that, we are familiar with it. You guys talk to us, we talk to you, but we wanted to give the opportunity to see if there's anything that we didn't know.
Well, I'll just say a couple positive things because it's always helpful. But the sort of the new system of lining up, I've seen lining up when it's a heavy use along the north side of the pier to get in, queuing up there, and discharging through the ball field or vice versa. Just sort of separating the lining up and the discharging, I think, is helpful, and it makes things more orderly in general over there, so that's good. And you have been very responsive at all times of night and day, but so I have to, hats off to your whole team. And sometimes the PEP officers have not been as responsive as would be helpful to you, which is why you get this email at 1 a.m. But in general, I'm happy with the response because someone does get back and there is action being taken. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Maybe I'm missing it. Some people help me if they see anything else on here. Janine's joined, Donna's on. Anybody else that otherwise we can move on to your next one, Robert. And this is fine to stop for questions after each of the four. That's fine with me.
There was one hand. Jeff
Rowland has his hand up.
I don't know.
Hold on now.
Where's that? Is that
Among the
oh,
attendees?
Jeff? Oh, all right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeffrey. I allowed you to speak.
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello.
Hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to go back a little bit to this bankruptcy thing. It seems to me that we've got a judge or a bankruptcy judge that's come in and mandated that the Hudson River Trust accept different terms than what the RFP originally was. And I'm curious, did the original RFP include the right to sublet, or is this being forced on you? And then I wonder if they actually have the legal right to force it on you. So that's what one thing that troubles me. And two, would you be in the next RFP, would you be specifically precluding subletting?
I'll have to talk to our legal team. I'll be honest. You have now passed my edge of my knowledge. It was a part of an antitrust review for an acquisition, so not bankruptcy. But other than that,
do you think you could get your legal team to answer my question and deliver that answer to our committee? Because I'm really curious about that. I'm confused about how they have the right to force you to do that, to accept it. And two, I'd like to know how much you fought against it. And your legal team could obviously answer that.
Sure, I can certainly ask. I know a bunch of this was tied up in sort of those confidential conversations, so I don't want to speak out of turn here with that or with the Attorney General as part of their public role as an officer of the state. So I will take that back one. I'll take that one back.
Okay, Darlene, I see your hand up.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Good evening. This was a topic, the party boats on the Hudson were a topic that were discussed last night among several entities that attended National Night Out of the First Precinct, which was down at the Seaport last night. So we got into a conversation about how many complaints are coming in from that about the noise, because the noise, the pounding base is unbelievable. It's, you know, it's a canyon when you're coming down to the end of Manhattan between what is on Manhattan and what is across in Jersey City. And I was wondering if you had gotten any of that complaint info from the first precinct, which doesn't quite, I'm not sure whether Pier 40 is actually, the dividing line is Houston Street between the precincts. They're the ones getting the noise complaints. And it is, you know, cornucopia boats. So this is a relatively, I don't want to say new phenomena that they're experiencing. You know, noise is a big issue. The pounding bass has become a huge issue everywhere in the city, but particularly down in that area. They, you know, the new facility to do concerts on Pier 17 has been, you know, a phenomenal exercise in how to contain the sound. So their community board one is really familiar with that process because that was a concern when they wanted to do this huge music venue. Now it's on the other side and it's coming off boats. So I think this might go into an area where we're going to need legislation that you can only do that once they're out in open water and not in a riverway.
Yeah, thank you for that. We definitely know we've heard any number of the noise complaints of boats out on the water over the years, I think, and we obviously can't say if there are boats. They certainly are not only coming from Hudson River Park. There are the New Jersey operators, there are operators on the Lower East Side, there are the Brooklyn operators. So we at the trust, we operate in our 550 acres, including our water, but unfortunately don't have enforcement beyond our borders. And even within the borders for it, you know, there unfortunately can't like jump in a boat and go run out to yell at someone when they are making noise. So we are working with to try and set up the communications protocols and pieces for it when it is in the park. Unfortunately, though, we don't have the ability to police what happens off the Battery or other places outside of it. So I think you may be right that it may be something that requires legislation to make sure that there is an authority or an entity that has statutory authority to police that. It is just outside of our footprint.
Yeah, I know it's been an issue at Little Island too during performances that sometimes boats will go by and disrupt, you know, whatever is going on in the amphitheater there. So it seems to be an issue for up and down on both sides of the island. If there are no other questions, let's move on to Katie. Did you have one more?
I want to say just one more comment. I mean, Robert, when we worked both with Hornblower and Cornucopia, we did require that they leave us contact information. And, you know, I have here a card for someone at Hornblower who now doesn't work there anymore, but I don't believe Cornucopia, I don't have any information for Cornucopia. So that was something that we all worked together to require, and you don't even have it, never mind the community. So I think that's something that we have to really be, you know, focused on getting.
Yeah, and I think that's something that that's one of the ones that we are hoping to address as part of this in the new RFP process. In part, the situation that the AG has forced upon us means that our primary piece is with Hornblower, who is then subtenants there, and that those extra layers make it more difficult.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, you want to move on to the second one? I think it was Gansevoort. You want to give us an update on Gansevoort?
Yes, I'm really now excited to enter the good news section of tonight's
Oh,
program.
that's good.
Gansevoort is coming along well. We are still on track to open late summer, early fall. The south edge is done. If folks want to go take a look from the playground at Pier 51 or up at the Whitney. I think sand is beginning to arrive as early as next week. The big turf is down, which makes it look very green, even if it is turf. And the piece that you guys will see, you know, I want to make sure the community folks know, we are working on the eastern edge. Sort of after a long time of having the path immediately up against the bikeway available, construction has moved that zone finally. And so the pedestrian promenade, the bikeway pieces of it, I believe, are done. There was a pretty disruptive piece a couple weeks ago. There is now a narrow path, and that we are should wrap up in September to make sure that we are ready for park opening. Still on track for late summer, early fall. I will have more on opening and make sure you all are invited to the ribbon cutting when we get there.
And you've also said if we wanted to have a meeting there before.
Yeah, if you guys want to come, we can try to schedule a tour if you want to do that. And we are always happy to host folks afterwards at the Pier 57 classroom. What we can try to get some free tours on for it. My next item, unless there are questions, I'll keep going.
I don't see any. It's no, that's why don't we go ahead? Go to the next one, which is you were going to talk about Pier 45 decking. Is that good news or bad news?
This is, I mean, it's good. It's good news.
Okay.
Pier 45 is the wood decking is now more than 20 years old. It has reached the end of its useful life as an incredibly heavily used deck. As any property owner will tell you, 20 years is a long time for a deck, and ours is used more than most. It is time for it to be replaced. Thanks to some money we have from Councilmember Eric Botcher, we are currently out to bid for a contractor to do the work. It will likely take place. I believe we're expecting sort of to try to do as much as we can at the very late fall, early winter. We'll have to take a break for weather and then resume on the backside of late winter and into the early spring. We're trying to do it when this pier is at least active as possible. We'll certainly come back when we have a contractor who's looked at it and we have phasing and timelines and all of that. We'll definitely give you guys an update when we have that. But I wanted to let you guys know that that is moving forward. There are boards that are popping, there are other things. So it will be good to redo. The whole pier will not be off limits. It will be phased in. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up. That is something that is currently going, and we're actually currently out to bid for a contractor. So good news. This is, and we've talked about before, and we've talked about this other places, and when we've talked about capital maintenance and the need for us to generate revenue from Pier 40 and other places, this is one of those items that is a capital maintenance item where eventually things wear out. Playgrounds need to be replaced, decks need to be rebuilt. It costs, it's not going to be cheap, but we appreciate Eric Botcher, Councilmember Eric Botcher, helping to fund some of it.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, good point about the capital maintenance items that occur over time. It's not just your salary that gets paid for by the funds from places like Pier 40.
There are operating, and then there are capital maintenance pieces, and those come up, and we have to be able to build up our reserves to be able to pay for them, because it is a heavy outlay all at once.
Both of which are separate from the ongoing building of the park, which continues.
Yes.
Okay.
So my final item, and to try to keep this as quick as we can here, and we'll come in under an hour. I just want to give everyone a good shout out and hope you come to one of our events this year. If you're not out of town, you should come. We early in the season had some rain and smoke problems, which I had never actually encountered before. We had to come up with a smoke air quality policy on when we have to cancel for safety, but which was new. But now we seem to have clear air and good weather, and you guys should come out to a concert. Every Friday, Pier 45 through the rest of August, we have our Sunset on the Hudson series. And if you look, we have our Healthy on the Hudson series at 25 and 26, Pier 46. We have them Wednesday mornings at Pier 57 inside, air conditioned for yoga classes with Lululemon instructors, as well as some north of the park. And I won't go north of 14th Street because I know none of you do. And other than that, Blues Barbecue, August 19th, Saturday, August 19th, up at Pier 76. You should come. Food, drinks, blues music, Our wet lab on Pier 45, we have open hours, we have sensory science classes for young kids. We have art classes and art classes at Pier 57 classroom, the Discovery Tank down at the end there. I brought some calendars for anyone who came in person, but you guys, it's all on our website also, hudsonriverpark.org/events. You should come join us. We have a lot, we've had a lot of folks. We're getting about a couple hundred people a weekend at the Discovery Tank, 300 to 400 people at some of our workout classes, 1,000 people plus 2,500 at some of our concerts. So we'd love to see you.
It's great.
Thank you. Thank you for putting it in the chat.
Well, that's great. Robert, it's great having you there. I think we're all really pleased that you're in the role as the Executive Vice President for Park Relationships and Programs. And we're all very supportive of Noreen and your team there. And I just wanted to say, in case people didn't know, Noreen was given a nice award a couple weeks ago.
A woman of distinction, I believe, from Deborah Glick, for Assembly Member
That
Deborah
was it.
Glick.
I couldn't think of the word distinction. Yes, Women of Distinction Award from Deborah Glick.
I used to have to write some of those proclamations, so it's like familiar.
Which was great. Which was great. So just one last thing before, I don't think there are any more questions. Maybe some people asking, no, you cannot resell tickets on StubHub. That's wrong. No. There have been a few events in the park. This wasn't in your 4 topics, but this was something came up about a couple of weeks ago. There are a couple more events, I think, after hours in the park where people got hurt.
Yeah, and I'm happy. Thank you for bringing it up. So a couple weeks ago, we had a really unfortunate event which was a stabbing in the park. It was overnight after hours in the park. The NYPD, we were able to help provide a wealth of video of the incident and of the perpetrators. The NYPD was able to track them down. The guy had actually fled. I think they caught him in Chicago, and he's now currently, facing prosecution for murder. So we are, grateful to the NYPD's efforts on that for it, and certainly saddened by the death. I will say, anything that can happen in New York City can and does happen in the park. And this was one of those ones for it. The park does close. We do our best, but with I believe 51 crosswalks into the park, we actually don't have the ability to close the park in the way that some spaces can truly close. So unfortunate an event, but certainly we have been working with our PEP team to try to make sure we're maximizing our coverage for what we're able to do, try to help make sure it is as secure as possible.
Any questions on that, anyone? Again, not something that we had sent out ahead of time, but I think it's something that most people had heard of. Otherwise, if there are any other questions, this is the chance.
Pete sends his hand up.
Pete is asking a question about for ticket events at Little Island, what is the percentage of seats sold and how does that line up projections for income? And then it's cut off.
Okay.
You can unmute.
Do you want to? You can also scroll down, and I can.
No, I was just curious what the level of ticket sales are in terms of what HRP thought would be coming in for Little Island and how that lines up.
So I will have to go back and triple check. I don't believe that we see a percentage or a piece of the ticket sales there. I think that all goes to Little Island, which is the nonprofit that runs what we call Little Island, but is Pier 55. So I think that is all within Little Island's control as a tenant of the park.
Okay, so Little Island doesn't generate any money for HRP?
I will double check, but I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Otherwise, we can
Oyster crop. We don't eat our oysters. They are cleaning the river. They're doing a great job. We have 31 million in the water right now. We're in phase 2 of our Tribeca piece. So in the coming years, I think we're expecting to put another 10 in, bringing us up over 41. We're actually, what folks don't know, one of the unique features is our estuarine sanctuary in Hudson River Park. So we have, I believe it's over a dozen visiting scientists doing research in the park right now on the water. We have one of the largest monitoring studies of habitat and oysters installations. It's actually the park is doing it ourselves right now in Tribeca. It is one of the largest in the region. It is a 4-year project. We're in year 2 of it. And this coming year, with a grant we received from NOAA and Senators Schumer and Gillibrand and Congressman Nadler, we'll be doing another study on our Gansevoort installation. I believe that is going to be a 3-year study so that we can really cross compare and learn better learn about what makes successful oyster reefs, how do they generate and how we can do, the region can really help learn from the work we've done on how we can better improve our local habitat and waters.
There's a question as to whether those are studies.
They on our river projects are saved. We actually have, I believe, it is 10 long-running in-park research projects. We have a fish survey, we have water quality, we have microplastics, we have a couple of others that I'm not going to be able to rattle off the top of my head. Long-running studies in the park that we have, some of which we came over as part of the merger with River Project when it was an independent nonprofit. And we do post our data every year on our website.
Okay. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm really impressed that we got this in. I will thank everyone again for making it in August. It's not every August. It's rare in August that we meet, but it was important to hear from Robert, and he wanted the forum, and so we've succeeded in that. And thanks for those who attended in person, and anyone who's not feeling well in his home. I hope you feel better soon. Otherwise, have a good rest of the summer, and we'll see you next month, I guess, or later this month.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. And thanks, Mark, for all your help as always. And please, if you could send me the video, that there are a few points I missed. Thanks. And thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you all.
Hey, everyone.
Like Kristen is in the.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and.